Red Sox had Wednesday off, and they are back at it on Thursday, big time. They start a 4-game series at Yankee Stadium. Big stuff coming, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Now. I'm your host, Mike Antonellis. We have a lot of people that have popped in here that are new lately. We appreciate that. I saw that in the comments yesterday, so I will always tell you the drill. If you could subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it. We're about 1,530-ish. Getting towards that 2,000 subscriber mark, and I would love to get 3,000 by the end of the Red Sox season, hopefully celebrating a World Series. Your comments are great. We'll read them every day. I am one of the radio and TV broadcasters for the Woo Sox, if those don't know. My perspective is a little bit different from working in baseball for 29 years. You kind of get that fan washed out of you a little bit, and you just learn like day by day you got to turn the page, and that's what you have to do. I know it's doom and gloom with 3 straight losses, but 3 straight losses should not define how your team's season's going to be. And we'll go over some examples. This club has had some rough patches. I kind of like this in a way. That sounds weird. Why? There's a big buzzword in player development. It's adversity. They want to see guys struggle in the minors. You have to. Can't have the first time struggling in the big leagues is what happened with Christian Campbell. He didn't struggle until he got to the big leagues. You want to see how guys handle adversity. That is the true sign of a champion. All teams go through it. A lot of teams are going through it now. Tigers went through a horrible run. Dodgers went through a miserable run. Look at Mookie Betts' run, 4.5 months. It happens. We tend, with the team we're rooting for, don't understand what other teams are going for because we're following our team, and that's fine. I watch a lot of other games. I watched a Tiger game one night about 3 weeks ago. Jason Benetti, one of the broadcasters for the Tigers, was saying they were holding auditions for relievers. That's how bad their bullpen was. Then we say the Red Sox bullpen is bad. If I talk to another broadcaster or another team, they'd be like, you have 4 legit relievers on the back end. Now, the front has been suspect, which they'll change, and we'll get to that. And they're going to get Slayton back. And get Slayton back, you got a pretty good 5. Most teams would die to have that. Chapman, Whitlock, Weissert, Slayton, and Justin Wilson, and then Matz. That's pretty good. Bernardino, and now Richard Fitz. You have guys you can interchange. So perspective is different depending on how you're looking at it. But like from my point of view, I do look at things a little bit differently long term, and I do watch a lot of games and follow a lot of teams, and I know their situations, and that's why a lot of teams got robbed at the deadline. You think about what Dave Dombrowski had to do to get a closer and what the Padres had to do to get Mason Miller. They could have just signed Chapman, right? I'm surprised the Phillies didn't sign Chapman, and I don't know everything that went on. I know he really wanted to pitch for the Red Sox, so again, we don't know all of the ins and outs. Wish we know all of that. But here's something that I really do like. I love that there's built-in drama. I think sports has a TV entertainment component that they need. I think the WNBA is getting a lot of criticism and getting a lot of feedback because of Caitlin Clark. That's created the good guy, the bad guy. You even need that in sports. That's why I think the NBA is boring. They're all just boring to me. The stars in the league are boring. It's like nobody's really. You need the Batman against the Joker. You need that, and now you have it. And I think you have it with some teams in the league. But how big and crazy is this 4-game series right now with the Yankees in New York in late August? Have we had something with this kind of dynamic in a while? This is going to be a lot of fun. 4 games over the weekend. The last weekend, for a lot of kids, right? They go back to school. A team that you're a half game behind in the wild card or more. You're 2 in the loss column, game and a half. You've lost 3 in a row. They've won 5 in a row. They were like this when you were like this. Now it's switching. Like the component of built-in theater here is terrific. This is what sports is all about. I would have been dying as a kid when I was like a nut job fan for this. Don't worry about, like, you got to wash away the games before and all that stuff. It doesn't, trust me on this. When Giolito goes out and pitches tonight, the stuff that happened before, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter anymore. It's a clean slate. Every game's a clean slate. Things change so quickly, and they have. But I just love this built-in theater. Giolito and Luis Gil. Now, I got some brushback when I defended the Yankees. Remember how most of everyone, not all of you, because I think a lot of you agreed with me on this, when the Yankees were in a real tailspin not too long ago, I said on this podcast, I am sticking up for them because I was amazed at their record losing their top two starters, and Gil had just come back. You take Crochet and Bayo away from the Red Sox next year, even with what they've added. And I think the Dodgers got through this a little bit, but most teams in baseball, if they lose their top two starters, probably are not good. I can't see if Detroit lost their top two starters and Skubal and whoever you want to call their two. And we don't need to do this. I don't know how many teams get through it. They have a very good pitching development program and scouting. It's not just developing pitchers, it's the guys they find. And I was amazed at it. And I never drank the Kool-Aid of them not being a good team. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it because they were getting Gil back, and it's just the Yankees. And remember the games before against them. Giolito and Gil, Bayo and Max Fried, Crochet and Warren, Dustin May and Rodon. Now you got your top four guys. They got their top four guys. You're battling for a playoff spot. If one of the teams won 3 or 4, that would be so huge for one of them. I think both teams would take a split, to be honest. A 4-game sweep from one would be insane. But this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. This is what it's all about for me. Like, I am bummed that I have to work all 4 games with the Woo Sox. In one way, we'll have the game on. But this is where you're going to have a lot of people who say that they hate the Yankees and Red Sox watching the Yankees and Red Sox. What were your feelings the last time they played the Yankees in New York? You remember? I do. You weren't happy. You had every reason to be. The Red Sox were 30-34. And all of the stuff that you've been saying now about how they've been playing recently, which I agree with you. It happens. Not an excuse. Have to play better. Have to play, with runners in scoring position, putting the ball in play, even defense, throwing to the right bases. But they were coming off some brutal games, right? In fact, they lost. This is at the end of May. They lost the final 2 games to Baltimore. They were swept in Milwaukee. They played better at Atlanta. Then they come home with the Angels, and what did they do? They lost 2, and then they won that game when Rafaela hit that cheap home run, right? Then they lost game 1 in New York to go to 30-35, and then all of a sudden, what happened? They won 8 of 9. They won 8 of 9, and they lost an extra inning game to Tampa. They beat the Yankees. They beat the Rays. They swept the Yankees. And they won 2 of 3 against Seattle. And they went from 30-34 to 39-37. They won 9 of 12. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen again. I'm just pointing out a fact that the last time they went into New York, I think many were more down on this team than they were up. I think now, people are just a little frustrated with that series, especially at home. And I think it's naturally built in when you play teams under 500. But again, if they have pitching, which Baltimore, their starters, and same with the Marlins, they were good, and you didn't hit. It's a little of both, but you still have to give their starters credit. You know, those aren't guys off the street. Alcantara, Junk, and the guys, you know, Taylor Rogers, ERA's under 2. You know, but you got to beat those guys. And you did last time. You beat Rodon and Fried. You beat those guys. So the feelings before, when you went to New York, and I'm telling you, over the course of the season, it is really hard. And I know no one wants to hear this. I get it. Guys do get, it's a grind this time of year. And you do have the San Diego-Houston series sandwiched with, you know, you have New York and Baltimore coming up. But trust me on this. You will see a different team this weekend. You had the day off. You're in New York. This is huge. They know this. But really, just turn the page, because there's been a lot of times this year where it was doomsday, and now they're in Gotham City. So this will be great. I don't know how many people follow me on, and I talked about Fitz being he'd be a good reliever. I told Lou Merloni this on X. You should search. Lou and I actually had a dialogue back and forth. I told Lou August 19th before it happened. And listen, I will swear to all of you, I did not have inside info. People are going to think, well, you work for the Woos. I did not. I'm part-time there. I don't know anything that goes on. I would tell you. And I wouldn't put this out there if I was already told this. But I had no idea Fitz was going up. To me, he was a good reliever because I've seen him a lot this year. And like I said yesterday, he throws strikes right away with his fastball. First inning, he can throw 6 or 7 fastballs for strikes. I called the game by myself a couple of weeks ago where the first 6 balls, he got a swing. And that's what you want from a reliever. And they're going to work him as a multi-inning guy. But I said to Lou had mentioned Fitz in a video. And I said, Lou, I love Fitz as a reliever because he commands his fastball right out of the gate, throws a tons of strikes in that first inning, be a perfect multi-inning reliever. And then Lou said, make it happen, Mike. I know you have pull down there. And then he said, you weren't kidding, with a laughing emoji. So we had a nice little back and forth. Because I said, yeah, I'll get right on it or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm happy for Fitz. Criswell is hurt. The Woo Sox yesterday announced that Criswell and Grissom are on the injured list. So that's why something was going on with Criswell. I was wondering why we hadn't seen him. So he's on the injured list. So that puts him out for a bit. But I love this because I think Fitz, and I was very critical of the Red Sox going into the last couple of games without a multi-inning guy. And I think Fitz is going to be perfect for this. I really do. I love him as a reliever. And listen, I think offensively, Nathaniel Lowe could have a huge weekend in that ballpark, but he's going to make a difference in that lineup. And I also wouldn't be surprised if David Hamilton is back in some capacity because he was scratched from our lineup yesterday in the mid-afternoon. Usually when that happens, a guy's going up. See, you know what I could have done, which people do? I have a feeling that David Hamilton's going up. No, I'm honest. He was scratched. We get the lineup. It's on X, by the way. You can see where we put out a new lineup. I think. Maybe not. But I'm on a group text where the lineup changed. And so maybe they want him for this weekend as a pinch runner. I'm not sure. Maybe Toro's out because Lowe's going to play first base exclusively. So we'll see about that. But I'm happy for Fitz, and I think this is a good spot for him. Let's get to your fantastic comments. As always, we're going to start with @David3000. I love that. If the Red Sox miss the playoffs again, how do you think fans will look at the season overall and the pros and cons differences from 24? The team is leaps and bounds better than 24. I've had people say no. I really don't understand how you can say that. You brought in 3 All-Stars and a top rookie. And it's very interesting when sometimes I have debates with people. I'm not a big stats guy at times, certain stats. Like I don't love a lot of like advanced stats, but I do like statistics. And I've brought this up to many people, I think we look for like magical things that caused the Red Sox to struggle last year. It's simple for me. And I know I'm repeating myself, but some of you don't watch every video. Your team last August had an ERA of 5. It was one of the worst in baseball. All right? Luis Garcia, an ERA of over 10. Lucas Sims, ERA of over 8. Winkowski, over 8. Bernardino, 7.5. Cooper Criswell, 6.43. Cutter Crawford, 6 starts, 6.32. Bailey Horn, 6.23 ERA. Nick Pivetta, 5.23 ERA, 0-2. Tanner Houck, 0-2 in 6 starts with an ERA of over 4. All right? Houck, Pivetta, and Crawford were combined 2-8. Throw in Sims, 2-10. Your best pitchers last year in August were Chris Martin, Zach Kelly, Paxton through 2 games. Remember, he got hurt. That was huge. Jansen and Bayo. That was it. You didn't hit much different than you did this August. Actually, you hit a little higher than your September team was good. Your August team pitching was horrible. So I saw vast improvements this year to the roster. John Henry spent about $500 million this year between Campbell, Anthony. I know that they got the Devers money, but they spent money. They made moves. It will be interesting. If they win 90-something games and miss the playoffs, I can't be upset. I believe their Vegas odds were 82.5, 83.5. It was not high. But if they play well and miss the playoffs, I know we'll dwell to the Marlins game and say that's what lost it. No, there's games you won you weren't supposed to. It happens. It evens out to me. But I don't think anyone will be happy if they miss the playoffs. It's just going to be how they if they miss the playoffs. Like how? If the Yankees go on this ridiculous run and end up with 95 wins and you end up with 93 and miss it, Seattle's lost 7 of 9. Their fans are going nuts. They have not played great baseball for a while. If you make the playoffs and lose 3 in a row and just look horrible, that's going to be an interesting look. But I don't think that the 24 to this team is leaps and bounds better to me. Just adding Bregman, Chapman, and Crochet makes it a better team. And that the fact that you added Lowe, I didn't like what they did last year at the deadline, but they really had no leverage. And again, we knew that we learned that Anthony and Meyer were in a lot of those deals. Add Aiden Bellinger, 803. Guess what people are going to go down when they realize Duran doesn't react well to being heckled. Yep. They will heckle him even more, for better or worse. It's part of the game. I hope he can learn to keep his cool. His outbursts are good luck. And listen, I won't. A lot of you on social media are agreeing with him. I'm going to tell you this, universally, you don't yell at players, fans. It doesn't matter what the fans say. There's no such thing as it. It has happened. And everyone will Google and send me examples of when it's happened. It happens 0.0000001%, and your guy has done it 4 or 5 times. I've watched almost every Red Sox game this year. I haven't seen one player other than Duran do that. You cannot yell at fans. And he's done this a lot. And he did it in AAA in Buffalo. He gave someone the finger when he was at third base years ago. You can't do that. Bregman is going to have a conversation with him. Trust me on this. I don't know why a lot of you stick up for him with this stuff. It just, if Aaron Judge did this to his fans, you'd be all over him. It is not tolerated. It's the end of story. You can't do that. If we allowed that to happen, it would just turn into chaos. And like I said, let's just reduce it to numbers. It barely happens. I've watched every Red Sox game pretty much this year and not seen it from anybody. You take up all the times a player at bat, pitcher runs off the mound. Thousands and thousands and thousands of times you go towards your dugout. It happens less than 1%. So, end of story. Steven Rosiak, 8002. Hey, Mike, whatever happened to old-time baseball, shortening up your swing and dropping one opposite field these days? Everybody goes for the swings hard, and yeah, it ticks you off. That's the one thing they really like about the password, Justinson Garcia, is he is kind of a guy that does that, shortens up. Romy is good at it. I think Story's good at it. I think Connor Wong's good at it. It's just, yeah, it's kind of lost. Core has been on them about that. Line drives are okay, and it's okay to swing hard if you're not constant in certain situations. But I get you. It's just it's the way the game is. I know it's frustrating. All right, that will wrap it up for Thursday. We will talk about Game 1 in New York on Friday. Can't wait to do that. But before we head out, please subscribe to the channel and leave your comments as we grow towards 2,000 subscribers. And enjoy the game tonight. I'll be with the Woo Sox. They have a doubleheader beginning at 4, so I'll be there, and I'll have reports from anybody, Garcia and Campbell, and let you know how that goes. So have a great one. Go Sox.